Welcome, welcome, welcome to the Pain of Change with Dr. Clarice. I am Dr. Clarice, and I'm excited as usual. I have a wonderful guest, and we're closing out this month with one of my Let sisters, ladies of the experience tour with leadership experience tour. I want to blank. Sorry, Sean. Leadership experience tour. We called ourselves the Ladies of Lead. I met Michelle in September 2021, and she was interviewing people as well as speaking. She has a powerful story, but she has just warmed my heart with her ability to reach and inspire people from all over. And she's just an amazing woman. And when you hear her story and what she's doing, she's she has another organization, Life After Breast Cancer, which is living inspired, free, and transformed. Now, lived after breast cancer, not life, lived after breast cancer. And she is a award-winning author, an entrepreneur, motivational and inspirational speaker, a, a licensed marriage social worker. So she's also extremely smart, and she's also extremely brilliant. So without any further ado, please help me welcome my friend, my let sister from the Leadership Experience Tour. I'll get it right before the night is over. Please help me welcome Michelle D. Clark. Welcome, Dr. Michelle. How are you?
You know what? I am wonderful on Wednesdays and just super excited to be here with you, Dr. Clarice. Thank you for inviting me back on the show. I'm super excited to be here.
Well, it took a long time to get you the first time. So, I got you twice in a year. So, look,
Yes.
why don't you walk me through? Of course, I follow you on social media, but I find out things about you all the time. And I'm always amazed at your courage. And I think that a lot of people, and you know, you're my third guest this month for breast cancer. I had another survivor, my best friend of a lot of years. Then my sorority sister is a surgical oncologist last week, and then you're closing out the month with your story. But what I find when I talk to people is how women are in denial, how they're embarrassed, how so many things impact them when they find out about breast cancer or anything, that kind of is not their norm. So why don't you take your time and tell me a little bit about yourself and walk me through exactly your journey and where you are today.
Yes, absolutely. And thank you so much again for this opportunity to be able to share because it's so important for us to have these kind of conversations so that people don't feel embarrassed or ashamed or because they may not have the knowledge or may not understand. Having these kind of conversations opens up the gateway for us to be able to heal and prevent life threatening illnesses such as breast cancer from taking the lives of those who could have received the treatment if they would have known what to look for and how to help themselves prior to. So thank you again for this opportunity. So for you, those of you who may not know who I am Dr. Michelle D. Clark. And you know, I'm just a small town girl with big time dreams who God has definitely shown his grace and his mercy. And he has saved me from some life threatening things. I'm so glad that he did because I'm able to spend this time with you all. And also because of the fact that it gave me an opportunity to birth Lift after breast cancer, which Lift does stand for Living Inspired Free and Transformed after breast cancer, because it literally was a emotional and transformative experience for me. So, you know, Dr. Clarice, I found out that I had breast cancer. I want to take it back just a little bit. First of all, it was not on a mammogram, it was not a sonogram, it wasn't any of those types of things. I found this peculiar vibrating sensation on the right side of my breast, and I decided to go get it looked into. Well, as I was going through some of the procedures, I ended up having to take a break from following through with some of the recommendations because I had 2 strokes. So, yes, so that was 2014 when I was having that vibrating sensation on my right breast. Had 2 strokes, had to wait to heal from that. Never left my mind, said, okay, I need to go back and find out what was going on because they said that I had, they wanted to do a biopsy. Never got a chance to get it done. So, went back in the following year in 2015, got the biopsy, sitting at my desk at work in between clients. And I get a phone call from my primary doctor and ring, 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 ring. He says, hey, Michelle, you know you got breast cancer, right?
Oh,
Yeah. That's how I found out. That was how the news was broken to me that I had breast cancer. And it's like, no, I didn't. But thanks for letting me know. Like, oh, like your hair is out of place. Did you know your hair is out of place, right? It's like, no. But I say this, I can never like
oh,
look
wait.
back.
Okay, I got to stop you.
Please go
Okay,
ahead.
I'm sorry. Because, I mean, this is a moment.
Yes.
How did he think you would know? He thought somebody else told you that you saw it on Facebook or something. So how did? Okay, continue.
Courier
I
pigeon, smoke
apologize.
signal. I don't know. I'm assuming that he thought that the pathology office may have contacted me, but you don't make those kind of assumptions. Tread lightly, right? But I can't get into any of that. Only thing I can tell you all is how it happened. And hopefully it will not happen like that again for anybody in the future if who gets this kind of a diagnosis. And anyway, moving forward, so okay, now I know I have breast cancer. What do we need to do about it? And so I got a second opinion with through a different medical health system, and it was the same. Yes, breast cancer, and I had to have a mastectomy because that was the concern I had. Well, do I have to have a full mastectomy? Do I have to have a bilateral, unilateral? So I wanted to get a second opinion on both of those things. So it was optional for me to get a bilateral, meaning mastectomy of both sides. Because of the fact that I didn't have any. I went through genetic testing, and I wasn't any higher likely to have breast cancer than anyone else in the general population, despite the fact that my grandmother also had breast cancer on the left side. And I know I told you guys that it was the right side, I had the vibrating sensation, but it actually turned out to be the left breast that had the breast cancer. And the only thing I can think of is maybe that the right side was trying to get my attention to say, hey, you need to look at her. The left breast isn't right. That's the only thing I can think of, Dr. Clarice. I don't know. So
Where's my Xanax? I need Xanax right now, right? Like what? So it was not your right side.
it was not. It was the left side. It was the left side. And so I had to have a full mastectomy without nipple sparing, meaning that they could not save the nipple. They couldn't save any of the skin. They had to take it all because of the fact of how close the cancer was to the nipple and that part of my skin. So they had to take it all. And I don't know about you, but Dr. Clarice, I one of those young ladies who have always been on the committee. Women, we know what that committee is, the itty bitty committee, right? So I never had
I
anything
didn't
in
know
me.
what you could be.
I know. I thought I would clarify, right? Yes, the committee, the itty bitty committee. So
Oh, okay.
so so I had a complex about my chest area, anyways. I did. And I never let it show because, it's something when we talk about, again, we talk about the embarrassment factor. We talk about, the ashamed, or we talk about, feeling less than female, feminine, because of the fact that in media, not just social media, but in media, especially African American women, we're hypersexualized. We're hypersexualized in media. And really, especially being African American, where people are like, oh, well, you got the voluptuousness about yourself, and I didn't have any of that. So not coming from that place, I always felt a little less than female. And so
Mm.
having to have my left breast removed, which happened to be the larger of the two, having, we're not perfectly symmetric, right? So, and it was like, come on, what's really going on here? But it was to save my life, and we're going to do that, vanity to the side. So, but it was always something that I wanted to do, was to have the reconstructive surgery. I wanted to be put back together again. And it was a
Mm.
long, up and down, tumultuous journey, Dr. Clarice. It wasn't smooth sailing. Like some people say, okay, soon as they had the mastectomy, they have immediate reconstruction. Well, that was the plan. However, they found cancer in my lymph nodes. So the breast cancer was no longer contained in the milk ducts, which is where it started, which is the most prevalent breast cancer starts. That's where it starts, right? Is in the ducts, the milk duct. And so it spread outside of there. So I had invasive ductal carcinoma, which is meaning that it invaded other parts of the body. It came out of the breast and it went into my lymph nodes under my arms. So I couldn't do the reconstruction. I had to go through radiation therapy. So I went through 4 weeks of radiation therapy, 5 days a week. Watching my body change, Dr. Clarice, was devastating. Literally, I saw my skin change from speckles to darkening to hardening to coming off. A lot of people don't understand and don't know how the body changes because of the radiation therapy. And of course, everybody's situation is different. Everybody's experience is different. This is mine. This was mine. And so I want people to know what could happen when you undergo radiation therapy. And not only that, but also the backside of where the radiation was, the backside was also altered because the radiation goes through you.
Mm.
So I had to wait. A waiting period standardized is usually 6 to 12 months before you undergo reconstruction. Well, because of the fact that I had a history of 2 strokes, um, they wanted to tread lightly. And to put it short, I was on some preventive medications to keep the strokes away. And because of that, the surgeon that I initially talked to did not want to move forward. He said, you had to come off that medication or I can't do the surgery. Well, they were going to take me off of a life saving medications for an elective procedure. Now, I get it. Elective, meaning that, yes, it's not a life and death situation. However, when we talk about mental health, being a licensed mental health clinician, when we talk about mental health, we talk about self esteem. That's important.
Mm.
We can't discount mental stability just because it doesn't have a physiological impact. And I was hurting. I still kept my bubbly and pleasant disposition because I was happy to be alive. 2 strokes, breast cancer, stage 2. I'm still here. You're not, no, you're not going to catch
And
me.
you had two small children. I
Yes,
mean, we also have to add that too. You have kids.
yes. Divorced, 2 kids, special needs son. So there was a lot that was going in that pot, but I was happy and grateful to be here and happy and grateful that I'm able to tell my story now. And at the same time, I still wanted to feel whole again, Dr. Clarice, because every single time I bathe, every single time I went to either buy clothes or put on lotion, every time I looked in the mirror, it was a constant reminder that I had breast cancer.
Mm.
And I never felt that I could move forward and heal at that point. Again, everybody is different. You don't have to reconstruct in order to feel whole. That was just my story. And so I was on that journey to have it happen. And just before I hit the point where I could come off the medication and I could have the reconstruction surgery, do you know that I had a TIA, a transient
A
ischemic attack?
cardiovascular event.
Yes, I had a mini stroke.
I'm not laughing. It just looks like laughter.
No,
Oh my God. I
talk
need
about the
Xanax
pain of
for real.
change.
Girl, you gonna have me over here crying and shouting at the same time. What?
I
So you
had a
had another event.
Yes, yes, ma'am. Yes, I did.
So explain what a TIA know is tachycardia ischemia.
No, no, transient ischemic attack. Yep. So
Okay.
transient ischemic attack. So in other words, the stroke happened quickly and it left quickly, and there was no imprint on the brain. So when you have a full-blown stroke, which I had 2 of those the year prior, to the breast cancer, that they can actually do imaging of your brain and see exactly where you had the stroke. When you have a TIA, and of course, anybody who is a neuroscientist or anything like that, or neurological or cardiovascular, please feel free to comment, because that's not my specialty. I'm just telling you what was told to me and some of the
Right.
things that I
Your
read.
story, your
Yeah,
glory, and your story.
that's
Okay.
it. Right. The glory
Okay.
behind my story, right? Before we get to the glory. So, but yes. So at any rate, so I had a transient ischemic attack. So I had a TIA mini stroke. And so there was another delay. So then I had to wait again. Well, let me tell you something. There's sometimes there's a blessing in the waiting, y'all. Sometimes you got to hold on until your change comes, right? So there's a blessing in the waiting. And the blessing was that I had an appointment that I was taking my son to in the same medical system. And this nurse, she's either a nurse practitioner, but I'll just call her a medical professional. She was working with my son, and I noticed she had a sleeve, an arm sleeve on, and it's for for pressure. And usually you have wear that when you have lymphedema or something like that. And so I said to her, I said,
Mhm.
"Did you have breast cancer?" She said, "Yes, I did." She says, "And I had breast reconstructive surgery, and I'm wearing this now to help to keep from having the lymphedema." So we got talking, and next thing you know, she gave me a name of a surgeon who she said who specializes in doing breast reconstructive surgery after radiation therapy. But God, come on. So, of course, did my research, reached out to him, made an appointment, and lo and behold, we were able to schedule the surgery, and he was able to collaborate with the cardiovascular team to keep me safe during the procedure. And so I had the breast reconstructive surgery, which there's various different types that you can go through. I did the latissimus dorsi flap, where they take the latissimus, which is in your backside, and they take that and they flip it around to the front to create a pocket, which also helps with the skin, because the skin was compromised and so was the muscle from the radiation therapy, even though time had passed and it healed. So they created the pocket, and then they put the expander in there. And every week I would go in for expansions, where they would put a needle in a port and expand the area to make room for the breast implant. I know, right? And
Wow.
so that I had some complications as well with that. I had some skin breakdown. They had to do some revisions. So they slowed down the expansion process. In the process of that, because they had to access the port more than they normally would, then that started to leak. Expander started to leak. And this was now we're talking about January of 2020. January,
So this
February
has been
2020.
like an ongoing journey.
Yes. Yes.
Mhm.
And so they had me scheduled for April to have the leaky expander removed and put another one in. And I said, no, 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 you all need to get me in. It's January. I'm not going to be here for 3 months with this thing inside of me. You need to schedule me sooner. They got me in on March 9th, 2020. Guess what happened 1 week later after my
COVID.
surgery? After my
COVID.
surgery, yes. The week after my surgery, COVID
Right. They
shut
shut
everything.
down on the 13th. Right.
Yeah, yes. Out here in Michigan, they shut down on the 17th.
Okay. Here it was. I know it was
Yep. Because
well,
the
that
date,
week of, right.
yes,
The 13th was that week of the, right.
correct,
Okay.
correct, yes. So fortunately, I was able to get in, and instead of putting an expander, they put in a placeholder um implant, breast implant. And so, but so then I waited past COVID and being uneven, but listen, from what I've been through, that is perfectly fine. No problem with that. Finally, Lord, we come to this year in March. In March, I was rescheduled again to have the right side augmented and for them to put in the permanent breast implant. Well, I had we'll put it like this. Well, I'll just tell what happened. It was I through a false positive COVID test. Listen, Dr. Clarice, I
I
was
saw
on
you.
the surgical table.
I
I had
saw
the
you.
cap on. Yes, you saw me coming from the hospital.
And I'm like, why she have her cell phone and she going into surgery? And I'm like, and remember, I asked you, I said, what's going, are you okay?
Yes, yes. And I did not have COVID. I did not have COVID. The next day, I took a COVID test. I took another COVID test. I went to the health department. All the tests were negative, 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 negative. I did not have COVID, but they couldn't take the chance. And they told me, man, you have to get dressed and you have to leave the hospital. And I was distraught. And, I was angry. I was sad. I was angry. I was confused. I was hurt. I didn't know what to do. And of course, I had a conversation with God. And I was like, God, let me ask you something. Because everybody said, Michelle, obviously God, saw fit to remove you from that surgery because something was going to happen. Or maybe the doctor was tired, or maybe this and the third, God. And I said, okay, listen. I said, God, let me talk to you for a second. I said, God, now I know you are mighty, you are almighty, you are all powerful, you can do all things. So why
Right.
didn't you,
You
whatever
God,
it was
right?
that was,
You
you,
God.
come on, you God, all by yourself. So why is it that you didn't move whatever it was out of the way and allow me to have this surgery that I've been waiting for since 2016 when I had the mastectomy? And let me tell you what I heard.
2016?
2016 was when I had the mastectomy. Yes. Let me tell you what I heard, Dr. Clarice. I asked the question, why didn't you move those things out of the way and allow me to have the surgery? And what I heard was, because then you wouldn't have known it was me.
Wow.
There's a blessing in the waiting. There's a blessing in the waiting.
Yes.
So finally, May, rescheduled for May, that got canceled. August 14th, finally, this year, you all, 2023, 7 years later, the year of completion, I finally had the breast reconstructive surgery to complete, as far as augmenting the right side and putting the appropriate implant on the
Right.
left
I
side.
think you should show. Hey, I think that deserves a flash right now. I'm just messing with you right now.
Well,
Oh
well,
my
I
God.
will.
I
I
mean,
will
I'm
say
sure
this
there's
though.
people saying, like, well, we need to see it. Right, right.
Well, I will say this, Dr. Clarice. I'm so glad
We
you mentioned that.
are invested in your boobs. I'm putting it
Yes,
that.
yes, and I want you to be, and please be invested
Yes.
in my boobs. Here's the deal, you all. So I actually have been every single day for the month of October. I have been journaling on Instagram. Excuse me, not Instagram. It's on Instagram and also on Facebook, but the whole article is on LinkedIn. So if you go to my LinkedIn page, you'll see every single day I've been walking through my journey, my personal journey with breast cancer. So check that out. In addition to that,
Okay.
coming down the pipeline, I did a before photo shoot, and I just literally on Sunday did a after photo shoot. So be on the lookout. Check out my Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. You'll probably see it more on Facebook and Instagram, but the pictures will be coming soon. So yes, you will get a chance to see. Now there won't be any flashing. They will be appropriate, but they also will
Wow.
be they
That is,
also will
well,
showcase my
congratulations.
page.
What? Look, I'm getting ready to fin my research next month. It's been going on since 2016. Well, 2019 is when I started collecting my data. So I
Yes,
get it.
yes, yes,
Well,
yes.
not on your level, but I mean that is like, so okay. Kudos, congratulations on perseverance, belief, knowing, not giving up. You know what I always say? Don't give up, what? Level up. And
There it
that's
is.
just what you did. You leveled up and you believed and you received.
That's right.
So let's step back for a
Yes.
minute. Okay. what would you tell people? Because now I'm gonna go a place that's gonna I'm going deep on this one, okay?
Yes.
Because it's kind of you had a situation that kind of prevented immediate treatment of your breast cancer.
Correct.
And because of that situation, your breast cancer may have been more advanced than it may have been if you would have been able to get it treated right away when they first discovered it. But so the message to me is that you had a situation where your doctors obviously did a risk benefit assessment, which is what they do. They looked at your situation and saw that dealing with your stroke would be more, it would be a better outcome for you if that you wouldn't have been able to go through the breast cancer treatment if they didn't deal with your stroke. And because obviously I'm sure they had done a biopsy of some type by that time anyway. So had they staged your cancer at all before you had your stroke?
No, so what happened is we actually didn't find out that I had cancer.
Oh,
They had indications that I may have cancer, but I wasn't able to follow up with the further testing because I had the stroke. They wanted to do the biopsy, and thereafter I wasn't able to do any of those things because I had the two strokes. So I never went back.
okay. So we have to go way back. So this is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, but we're
Yes.
gonna have to bring you back for stroke because I mean, like for real. My family, my dad's side of the family, almost everyone on my dad's side of the family had a stroke.
Mm.
Okay. Um, most recovered, had some. My dad had a stroke. Of course, he was never 100%, but he did live and never had another stroke. Um, my aunt had a stroke and passed away from it. Her
Mm.
father had a stroke. Brothers had a stroke. So, as a result, I stopped smoking and drinking 30 years ago because I knew that the genetic fingerprint for me was stroke. It wasn't cancer. My mom had colon cancer, but she was an index case.
Mm.
So, not saying that nobody else could have it, but she was the first person that had cancer in our family that we know of. And
Yes,
she had colon cancer. Okay. And we know of. Okay.
that's important.
Right. I mean that no, and people need to to own that because that's the well nobody well you don't know who else because either they might have been misdiagnosed or never told you. People have all kind of stuff and die and don't tell anybody what they had because they don't want anybody to know their business, right?
Hmm.
Right,
Hmm.
and
You're right.
not looking at it as family history. So we're gonna have to bring you back and talk about the stroke because you were young. You're still young. So okay, breast cancer. What has been, other than the breast augmentation, and what was the most difficult part of that for you in terms of, was it, okay, you have this doctor who, was he a personal friend of yours? Did you know this guy? No,
I
you
mean,
didn't.
he had been you're talking about my primary doctor, correct?
So he
Is
was your primary care
Yeah, yeah,
physician.
yeah. My primary care physician was the one who gave me the information.
So
He
maybe, okay, so all right,
relayed it.
so maybe he thought the people at the imaging center
Exactly.
had called you, which I had two breast scares and didn't find out that one was pre-cancer
Mm.
that leads to breast cancer, and that was in 1997 until last week. It was interductal. I didn't even until the surgical oncologist talked about, I guess, this DCIS, the D. So, okay, well, I'm like, I had that. She said, you, I said, yeah, but I didn't know until last week that
Mm.
I didn't show up when I was supposed to come back and get it taken out. I went to the Black Caucus. This is in 1997. I'm young. So when I came back, because I had all these messages on my answer machine,
Mm-hmm.
I just went by there. I didn't go to, I just said, oh, they were calling me on my answer machine. And I've been out of town. So I'm just letting them know that I'm here to reschedule this appointment. And they said, okay, hold on a minute. They said, okay, come back. I said, oh, I have an appointment. Okay. Because I was in pharmaceutical. I said, I have an appointment. They said, no, come back. But honey, they sequestered me and took it out right then.
Oh,
They
thank
would
you.
not let me leave. They localized my breast. She went in there and pulled it out of my nipple area, right? And
Mm.
put it in a jar and sent it to pathology. I never even thought about it could be breast cancer.
Wow.
Babies and fools. I want to think I'm the baby. But okay, but see, that's just dumb. And I
Mm.
don't consider myself, I'm a highly intelligent woman, I guess,
Yes,
until it
you are.
comes to breast cancer, obviously. But here's the thing. What is it that you think, okay, I had a pre-cancer situation that I didn't even think about.
Mm-hmm.
You had sensation in your right breast vibrating. You checked it out, but then you have the stroke. And then later you say, I need to go check this. I need to follow up on what the so when this guy tells you that you've got breast cancer, oh, you know you got breast cancer, right, Michelle? What was what was your other than shock, confusion, totally confused? What was your thoughts?
Dr. Clarice, because I was at work, I was in therapist mode already. so and it's not to say that I'm not emotional when I'm, at work, but I'm much more cerebral and logical when I'm at work. So I was already in that kind of a mode, if you will. So it just was like, yes, I was shocked. I mean, first of all, you're not expecting to get that kind of a phone call. And then when you do get that phone call, you would think that there would be a little more bedside manner tact, if you will, with delivering that kind of news. Even if you thought the pathology office had already called me and relayed the news, still tread lightly. But so I didn't really have a chance to really react, to be honest with you. It just was like oh, okay. All right, so what do we do next? Because I knew at that moment that I had other clients that were coming, and I had to maintain my posture, if you will, because as therapists, as life coaches, as anyone who's in a service industry, a servant, I'll even call it, industry, we understand that it's not about us, that we have to, whoever comes into our office for our service, it's about them. And we have to make sure that it stays about them. And so that was more of my mindset in that moment. And I figured there's a line, I think it's off of Friday, that says, "Oh, he gonna cry in the car." So it's like, I'll have time to cry in the car.
No, right. Like, okay, good to know. Listen, I've got a client in another 25 minutes. Do I need to call you back later? You in a hole. Yeah.
Yeah. So I didn't really, so there was no emotion really attached to it at that moment. And I didn't have the time allotted to process it, to even allow emotions to surface at that time.
Well, I'm really convinced, and I could be totally wrong. I'm rarely wrong, but I could be. So I'm just kidding. No, I think that because you're in the mental health field, and you know that, and a lot of people really don't know this, and this is kind of like a dual show, because you've said more than once about mental health. And I don't even know if you've been aware that you've said more than once about mental health, right? But mental health dictates your physical and your emotional. And people do not see that, especially people that look like us. Your mental health is what got you to to where you are right this very minute, because that healthy mind calmed down that unhealthy body, right? Because what? The mind controls the body.
Yes, ma'am.
So certainly you couldn't do anything about what had happened, but you certainly had the ability to control what was going to happen to the best of your ability. I mean, would you agree to that, or am I totally wrong? Because it's a
No,
guess.
no, you are 100% correct. Everything starts with the mind. Everything. And people say, well, well, I felt this and then I thought that. No, everything starts from the mind first. Because in order to have an emotional reaction to something, you have to process it and understand what's happening in order to have those emotions to follow.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of times people, when they think about the outcome, and well, this just happened. No, nothing just happens. You think about the event first. And then based on your perceptions of the event, that's what creates your feelings. That's what creates your emotions. It's your perception, because if it was the event itself that created your emotions, then it would create that for everyone. But
Mm-hmm.
the determining factor, the thing that changes in there, is how we perceive things. And how we perceive things is colored by our experiences, the things that we've been through. So we have learned behaviors, right? There's some things that's innate, and that is falling and loud noises. Those are the only two responses that we're born with, having a reaction to. Everything else is a learned response based off our environment, trial and error. And so we think about that. We have this little filing cabinet system, right? And based on what we've experienced, it pulls things out and says, I know something that's like this. And it categorizes it in this. And then we have a similar reaction because of the experience we had from our cognition. That's called our schemas, 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 groupings of ideas. So those groupings of ideas are our shortcut. It's our way, so that way when we experience something, every time we have a new experience, it doesn't have to be totally new, because our mind now relates it to something else. That's a good thing and a not so good thing. The pendulum swings both ways. It's a good thing because if we go to a hot stove, we touch it once and we know, it's hot. Don't do that again. We don't have to experience it all over again, new, to know that we shouldn't do that. But the bad thing that can happen is sometimes we can assign ideologies to something that is false. And we have those false ideologies. That's how you get certain things. I'll try to keep this as light as I can, but that's how you basically can have, I'll just say this. That's where you can have things like racism, sexism, ageism. You can have all these types of things, because once you run into one
Mm-hmm.
types of person, then you assume that everybody is like that. Same
Well,
thing with breast cancer. My experience is not like everybody else's experience with breast cancer.
I
So
mean,
that's why.
I'm gonna make it real heavy, and it doesn't have anything to do with breast cancer. We're watching the idealism and the bias when we're looking at what's happening in the world now. That basically people are being obliterated in Gaza because the Israel people have decided that everybody's Hamas. That's what they're really saying. So
Mm,
we're killing everybody. You
mm.
see what I mean? Because that's my perception. That's my perception. My perception is that that you are associated with that. That means this. So therefore, I'm getting rid of all of it. Even if you're not really associated with it, right? How many of us, I mean, we have numbers and you're a number. I can and we both will probably stat people but we're gonna find it, right? So how many times have you watched people? Well, you're a lot younger than me, but I'm gonna give you for instance, people who know they're sick, but they made a decision that the doctors are wrong, that they said that if you have the surgery, then once the air hits it, you're not going to make it because it's the air, as long as you don't operate on it, because they said, but not looking at the fact that early detection is the only chance we have with cancer. That is the cure. That's the cure. Early detection. All the money. Susan Corman's family. God bless Susan Corman. Because
Yes.
her family has done an amazing job keeping that woman's memory alive and the research that has been done. But African American women, African American women are diagnosed with breast cancer less, but we die. We die in greater numbers. White women get breast cancer much more than black women do, but we succumb, and not because we have the triple negatives.
Right.
It's because we don't. And listen, every city, every city has a health department. Every health department has a mammogram thing somewhere in there. Every health department got it in there. Every every city every city, major city has a breast cancer or some type of imaging somewhere.
Yes.
All right.
Hmm.
We have to do better. We are still dying from things that other races are not dying from anymore. And we're dying from what we put in our mouths: food, alcohol, drugs, and cigarettes. Breast cancer is not necessarily caused by, there's a lot of association with breast cancer and obesity. It's a lot of association, but you certainly weren't obese. Your grandmother uh, had breast cancer, right? Your
Yes.
mother didn't have it. Didn't anybody have it for your grandmother? Not to your knowledge. See
Not
what
to
I
my
mean?
knowledge. No, not breast cancer, not to my knowledge. No.
Right.
Other cancers, but not that.
So my whole thing is that I already know you're a beacon of hope. You're light. You're light. You're an amazing light. I mean, your spirit. I mean, of course, I would have to talk to your children to see who the real Michelle is. No, I'm just kidding. But if you talk to my kids, I don't even know who I am. I'm like, who is this? I said, that's me. Oh, okay. But oh, I didn't know I did that. But you have been such an inspiration to everybody that I know, and certainly to me. So with your breast cancer, how you walked through this, what would be, if you could help some, if you did a pamphlet, if you, all the Cancer Society information and all the breast cancer, what would you change? What would Dr. Michelle change in terms of getting the information out there? What do you feel that now that you are a survivor, you're a conqueror and a warrior, what do you feel that you would change in terms of the information that's out there now? Oh, it's a lot of information. But what would, if you had an opportunity, and you do because you have a voice and you have a platform, what, when you talk about Lift Nation, what would you change? Lift Nation for breast. I always get it wrong. So
That's that's okay. Yep.
no,
And
no, I'm getting it right before the show is over. I'm getting it right now. Okay, so lift after breast cancer, right?
yes,
All
yes.
right. So lift after breast cancer. What would you, living inspired, free, and transformed? So
Yes.
what would you change? What would it be if you could have your a form that people filled out? If you had an opportunity to say something, what would it be?
Yeah, so there's a couple of different things, and thank you for the opportunity to answer this question because it's very important. The what to do next, right? So identifying the problem never solves the problem by itself. Yes, we have to identify it, but then what next? Just like I said to the doctor, when he said, "Oh, you have breast cancer, don't you?" Okay, great. What next? And so one of the what next that I did, which is why you all hear Dr. Clarice saying Lift Nation, is because yes, I have a company, Lift Nation LLC, where I work to empower professional women to live inspired, free, and transformed. Well, guess what? After this journey that I had this year in the waiting, when I realized that my purpose and my passion was through the pain, and that pain changed my direction. That pain changed my direction. I realized that I had to stop running from the diagnosis. And because I want to distance it from myself, because just like what we do as mental health clinicians, life coaches, and the like, when someone says that, I have schizophrenia or I am diabetic, no, you're not. You have diabetes, you have schizophrenia. You are not your diagnosis. So I didn't want to be attached to my diagnosis. But what I failed to realize is I don't have to be attached to it in order to embrace it and become an advocate. And so that's what I did different. And so that's where the birth of Lift After Breast Cancer came, which is living inspired, free, and transformed after breast cancer. That's what Lift
Do
stands
that
for.
again.
Yes,
Transform.
transform. Yes, so Lift After Breast Cancer, where we are empowering high performing female breast cancer survivors to live inspired, free, and transformed. We were not given the second lease on life in order to just go back to the rat race. Because one of the things that we talked about as for risk factors is stress.
Yes.
Stress. I was under tremendous stress before then that created these health maladies that I experienced. And when we talk about African American women dying of things that other cultures may not, one, yes, it is diet. Absolutely 100% the things that we're putting in our mouth. The lack of exercise, the lack of having proper or under insured for insurance. In addition to that, there's also generational traumas that we experience. We're talking all the way
We
back
need
that,
to do another show. Okay, keep going.
yeah, so we have all of these things that are putting us behind the eight ball that need to be addressed. And how do we address it? By doing just what we're doing right now, Dr. Clarice, having these conversations, inviting people to sit at the table with us in these conversations. And if people don't have a table, we make a table. If there's not a seat, we pull up our own chair and we make our voices heard.
And it can be a folding chair too.
It can be a folding chair, it can be a stool, it can be a lawn chair, whatever. But make sure that our voices are heard. So, no, I am not my diagnosis, but I embrace my diagnosis because I'm still here. right before I was diagnosed, there was a young lady that I knew, and as a matter, it was as a matter of fact, I was diagnosed already. I went to an event. She passed away, and that next year, who's my hairstylist, she's a salon owner. She had a mammogram bus come, and she had a whole big event. And I got a chance to speak because I had just found out that I hadn't gone through any of my reconstruction and none of that yet, or not even my mastectomy yet. I just found out I had breast cancer. And so those types of things, awareness, bringing awareness to what's happening, and then helping people with the solution. So the best prevention, or the best, some people say that, what is it, an ounce of prevention is worth more than a pound of intervention, whatever the case that story is. So yes, getting early detection helps, but before that is doing the things that we need to do to decrease those risk factors. So that would be my voice, is to help people to understand those risk factors. Now, on the other end of that, on the other side of that, because again, we can all do what we can do, and we can minimize the risk all we want to. But if you're going to get cancer, you're going to get cancer. Yes, there's things we can do to prevent it. And listen, I didn't smoke. I don't drink. I didn't do drugs. I wasn't obese. None of those things. But I did have stress. I had overwhelming stress. On the other side of that, ladies, because I work with women, guys get breast cancer too, FYI. 1% of the diagnosed breast cancer is men, right? So men do get it too. Men do get
Richard
it too.
Roundtree, who just passed away yesterday, God bless his soul, had breast cancer. He was very vocal about it. Richard was very vocal
Yes,
about it and an advocate. Yes.
yes, yes. And when I went to the Susan G. Komen walk, I got a chance to meet a male breast cancer survivor. Oh, that walk was phenomenal. And so doing things like that as well, becoming a volunteer, I volunteered. But make your presence known. In
Yes.
addition to, in addition to that,
Yes.
this might be a good segue here. So I'm a part of a contest. It's called Fab Over 40. And with that, part of the proceeds, if you donate, you can also vote for free. But basically, it's ladies who are over the age of 40, and we're in a contest. And the part of the donations, the proceeds, goes to the National Breast Cancer Foundation.
I'm trying
So
to put this up here for you. Go ahead.
thank you. Thank you. Yes. So that's another thing. Donate. So if you can't donate your time, donate money. If you can't donate money, donate your time. But become a part of the solution and not just sit on the sidelines, because we're either part of the solution or we're part of the problem. There really is no middle ground. So help somebody. And so with Lift After Breast Cancer, my mission is to help women, high performing women, female breast cancer survivors who've already been through breast cancer, right, to start living life again. Because what I realized is there is nothing called work-life balance. It's work-life integration. Because when you go to work, you're still you. You can't remove that part of your brain and say, okay, I'm at work now. No, there's still life events that happen. Think about it. I just had a deja vu moment. Think about it. I learned that I had breast cancer while I was at work. That didn't have anything to do with Michelle D. Clark, LMSW. That didn't have anything to do with me as a licensed mental health therapist. That was personal. So we can't separate ourselves. We're always who we are, no matter where we go. So it's work-life integration. And so coming up here soon, what I would love for you all to do is, and maybe we can get this to come across the screen, but if not, please get your pen and papers now. We call it getting the gap. Grab a pen and paper and write this down. You want to go to bit.ly/lift after breast cancer PNL. So that way you can yes, lift after breast cancer. So bit.ly/lift after breast cancer. P is in Paul, N is in Nancy, L is in letter. And that's for pre-registering for the newsletter, because we're going to be launching a newsletter that you're going to be the first ones to know when we launch it. and we're going to have information. And it's also going to talk about my journey in there. And we're going to have other features in there. We're going to have events, and you'll be the first ones to know. So make sure that you pre-register. Yep. Lift After Breast Cancer, PNL. And actually the open.
I gotta check that open out. Okay. Okay.
Yep, that's okay. Yep. So yep, bit.ly/lift after breast cancer PNL. I know sometimes when you put things on the link,
Right.
it adds. You gotta love AI. You gotta love AI, right? But so that way you can be in the know when we launch the
It's
newsletter.
after breast cancer is P what?
Yep, PNL. P is in Paul, N is in Nancy, L is in Lewis. And that's
Okay.
for pre-registering for the newsletter. So when we launch, you'll know, and you'll be the first ones to get firsthand information.
And then I want you to text this to me because I'm gonna put it on my page too,
Please.
and all of your stuff on my page. I want you to text it. But we're gonna wrap up, and I just want to everybody to know that I'm gonna leave all the information on my page on YouTube, on my Pain of Change page, and on my personal Facebook page on how to find uh, Miss Doctor Wonderful, got it going on, inspirational. Michelle, it has been indeed my pleasure. I mean, I'm going to ask you to come back again because there's so much we need to talk about. I am doing everything I can. I'm trying to get a grant, and this grant is going to be to try to just concentrate to work on health issues for African Americans. We have all these issues, and breast cancer month, that's a month. Prostate cancer, that's a month. Crazy cancer, that's a but this is going on all the time in our community. And and we need these stories. So before we go, I just want to thank the people. I'm on three different platforms, so I can't see everybody, but I just want to thank my high school friend, Paula Lizette Timmencop. Thank you, Paulette, for she's saying teach. Esther Poole, thank you for addressing breast cancer, diet, and mental health. There is Miss Shanitra. I don't know if you know her or not.
Yes, I
Monique
do.
says stress. And she also said talk sister. My personal, okay, so Chris Jackson is international chef Christopher
Mm.
Jackson and my guy. Thanks, Chris, for joining us. And I have one of my dear longtime friends said great guests. So those are just some of the people we had it and want to show you something. But wow, your personal disclosures. Thank you for your transparency. Mental health is your wealth. Amen. So thank you, thank you, thank you. I cannot thank you enough. I really can't because you make a difference. You're making a difference. You make a difference every day.
Amen.
Every day. And you don't realize how many people you touch. And I know you don't. You don't. Just do your walk, your transparency, your heart. It all shines through. So I want to thank you for your advice. I want to thank you for sharing your journey, your transparency. And thank you. I normally say, I hope I help somebody walk through your pain of change and walk into their victory. But I want to say thank you, Dr. Michelle, tonight
Mm.
for helping me walk through my pain of change and into my victory. So until the next time, our next show, and don't go off, our next show is going to be another leadership experience to her sister, uh, Miss Constant Woolard, and her guy. They're gonna do trick or treat dating after 50 on Halloween. So stay tuned for that. So all right, good night, everybody. Love to all. See you soon. Take care.